Today, Be'ezras Hashem will try to give a summary to the best within the amount of time for the Maimer Mimana for Yaakov from Shabbos Parshas Chukas Balak Yud Beis Tammuz Tafshin Yud Beis. So in order to explain both the idea of why Mana comes together with Yaakov and Mispar comes together with Yisrael, both mean number, and also in order to explain what is so unique about the fact that the Jewish people are beyond number, when seemingly we say, Atem am'at mikol ha'amim, that the greatness of the Jewish people lies in the fact that they're the minority of the nations. So the Rebbe begins by explaining the Maimer Min HaMeitzar Karasi Ka, which is based on the Maimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe that he said on Rosh Chodesh Tammuz in prison. When a person calls out to Hashem from the depths of his heart, from the depths of the confines of the constraints and the tight situation that he finds himself in, then he reaches a level of Ka. He's able to call out through davening to reach Hashem. And what do we say? Not Havaya, not that he reaches Hashem's name Havaya, but rather Ka. And the question is, why specifically Ka? So in order to explain this, we explain the idea of Bitachon. That regarding Bitachon, it says, Bitchu v'Hashem adei ad. Now when a person calls out to Hashem from the constraints, from the depths of his being, in a time of tightness, in a time of pain and hardship, how does he reach Hashem through Bitachon, through his trust in Hashem? Now regarding trust in Hashem, we say, Bitchu v'Hashem adei ad ki v'ka Hashem tzurei lamim. Again, that the reason for Bitachon, in a way of adei ad, comes because Hashem. What's the meaning of Bitachon, trust in Hashem in a way of adei ad? Trust in Hashem could be inspired by various different reasons. A person can trust Hashem because of the emotional attributes. But that's limited, because emotions, the very essence and the very definition of emotion is that just like I feel love now, the love for Hashem, that means that Hashem feels the love for the Jewish people, and therefore I know that He'll save me and that He'll give me what I'm asking for. But there's also the opposite, because that's the whole idea of emotions, that there's one side, but there's also the other side. There's chesed, there's also gvura. So that's limited. That's not that's not trust with certainty. Then there's a higher and deeper type of trust which comes from moichin, from intellectual aspect, which in the side of intellect, even when there's no reason to love, even when a person did something wrong, but there's dan lekaf schus, intellectually a person can understand why, despite what the other person did, there still should be a reason for love or a reason to do good, to behave in a way of kindness. And that's why moichin, intellect, brings rachamim, it brings mercy, which is above kindness. Nevertheless, that too is also limited, because there's times when a person can't find a reason for rachamim, when even intellectually there's no reason why to be kind. So therefore that bitachon is also not 100%. The bitachon, the trust, that's in a way that's 100%, that's in a way that's adei ad, it goes beyond all limits, that a person knows with certainty, is one that doesn't come from emotion or from intellect. It comes from the essence, the essential connection and love that Hashem has with the Jewish people, which is from a krisas bris. It comes from the covenant that Hashem makes with us, that we're connected to Hashem, and that no matter what, He loves us, and no matter what He's going to do, He's going to give us good. That's the highest form of bitachon. In this idea as well, that's why we say bitchu b'havaya adei ad. Adei ad could mean various things. What causes the bitachon? Until what? What causes it? It could come from zer anpin, which is the emotional attributes of godliness. Zer anpin, the small face, meaning the way that the lights, the godly energy which we call the face, comes in a way small, it becomes shrunk, so to speak, to come into the world. It's limited according to the world. Then there's a bitachon in a higher level, which comes from the level of Arich Anpin. Arich Anpin is the big face. That's higher than the moichin, which are above. Higher than the intellect that's above. It comes from Keser, above understanding. But nevertheless, that's still called a big face, meaning it still has a connection to the world. It's above the world, but connected to the world. The highest level is the level of Atik. Atik is the Pnimius HaKeser. That's the essence of godliness that's connected with the essence of the Jewish people. It's beyond. It doesn't go in any way. It's not related whatsoever even to any type of level that's connected to the world. That's Adei Ad. The level of Ad. Not Ad Ve'ad Bichlal, which means it's above the world, but still connected to the world, but Ad Ve'loy Ad Bichlal is the very essence of godliness. That's the highest type of bitachon. It's not connected like the Seder Ishtalshlus to the chain, where there's a highest ring, the highest link of the chain. Could be very distant from the lowest link, but yet it still has some type of relation to it, but it's completely non-related to it. That idea is also in a person. In a person, when the person goes on the level which is beyond time v'das, beyond understanding. And we explain that when a person, and that level of a person can inspire the bitachon from Yudke, which Yudke is the Chachma and Bina from above, but he reaches the Chachma and Bina, the deeper essence of the intellect of above, because he reaches a level which is beyond everything, a level which is connected by his very essence to Hashem. That idea is what comes from the Meitzar, from the constraints. What's the idea of constraints? That's the concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim is the ultimate Meitzar. That's the Meitzar, the constraints that leads to all types of Mitzarim Ugvul and all types of limitations by a person. With regards to Yetzias Mitzrayim, we say that it had to be in a way of dilug. It was Midaleg Alehorim Mikapitz Alagvois. Hashem jumped over. Now in Chassidus there is explained that in Avodah of a person, there's three types of Avodah. There's an Avodah of Amidah, standing. But standing doesn't mean standing in one place, because if I'm just standing in one place, then it's not Avodah. I'm not doing anything. The Avodah of Amidah, which is the Avodah of the Neshama before it came down into the body, is that it's constantly moving. It's constantly going from one level to the next, but it doesn't go in a way that's totally beligvul, unlimited. And therefore it's not called Mahalich. Mahalich means to go from one place to the next. Here the neshama is not going from one place to the next, it's going within the realms of what it is, traveling more and more, going higher and higher. Hiluch means to go from one level to the next, going in an incomparable way, similar in an intellectual form to the difference between someone who's understanding something, that the more he knows, the greater he'll be able to understand, the deeper understanding that he understands now. That's an understanding which is in relation. It's related to the understanding that he already has. But then there's an understanding, like we find by Reb Zera, that in order to go from Talmud Bavli to Talmud Yerushalmi, he had to forget everything that he knew beforehand. He's going to a totally new realm. That's why when the neshama comes from this world, and it goes up to the next world, to Gan Eden, it has to forget everything of this world. What's it forgetting? Not forbidden things, not things which were permitted, but which were desires of the world, because that's not what we're dealing with. But everything that it had a connection with in this world, even in a holy situation, now it's going to a totally new realm, which it has to forget everything that it had beforehand. That's called Hiluch. How does the neshama come to the level of Hiluch? While the neshama is up, Lamaila, while the neshama is before it comes down into the body, as well as angels, that they have an emotional feeling of connection to Hashem, they can't leave their own constraints and their own limitations of intellect and emotions. Because that's their existence. They can't leave that existence. However, once the neshama comes down into the body, and it feels a different constraint, it feels a limitation of the body, which is a strange limitation, it's different than it itself. That causes and that pushes the neshama to come to a level of being able to leave totally its constraints of intellect and emotions and go beyond it and connect to something that's higher. That's called hiluch. That's called to go. However, even that hiluch is still within the realms of an understanding, because it's the understanding of the neshama and the feeling of the neshama that brought it to the level that's above understanding. It was caused through realizing that I have to go above where I am now. So it still is limited, there still is a specific limitation, like we explained earlier, the difference between Zeir Anpin and Arich Anpin, that even though Arich Anpin is Keser, it's above understanding, but nevertheless it's still called Anpin, it's still connected to the world, it still has some type of relation to the world. Whereas when we talk about there's the higher level, a deeper level of what we mentioned earlier is Atik Yaimin, which is completely removed from the world. The very essence of the reality of the neshama that's beyond any type of limitation whatsoever. That essence is called dilug, jumping. Because the difference between standing, walking, and jumping, when a person stands, they're totally, completely grounded. Their feet are constantly touching the ground. When a person walks, they're lifting their feet from the ground. But there's always one foot on the ground, and when you pick it up, you put it back down. When a person jumps, they jump to go totally beyond the existence that they're in. And that's the idea of dilug, jumping. That is the highest and deepest form of avodah, and that avodah is the avodah of tshuva. When a person realizes, not my understanding and my feeling brings me, but rather the fact that I'm in the deepest type of constraints, I'm in the deepest type of limitations that bring me to, now that I'm separate from Hashem, it causes me to want to push totally out of the existence and connect to the very essence of what it is, the essence of being connected to Hashem. This was Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim is to leave limitations fully. As long as there's still some type of level that's connected, even if that level means I'm above, I'm higher than the world. I left my constraints, but I didn't fully leave my constraints because I still have the other side that I'm fighting with. Whereas total Yetzias Mitzrayim is dilug, that's why the level that had to be revealed for the Yidden to leave Mitzrayim is Ani v'loi Malach, Ani v'loi Shaliach, Ani v'loi Saraf. None of the levels of the Ishtalshalos of the world, of all the four worlds, but rather Ani hu v'loi Acher, Hashem himself, the essence of Hashem. Melech Malchem Lachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'chvayde U'B'atzmei, which means the very essence of Hashem, the deepest levels of the essence, the Atzmos of Hashem, that's what became revealed. Why? Because when the essence of Hashem is revealed, it's the very essence, it goes totally beyond any type of limitations. And this is what happened by Yetzias Mitzrayim, and this is also the meaning of Bitchu B'Hashem Adayad. The Bitachon, the ultimate faith, is Adayad. The ultimate faith is one that doesn't come from any type of connection or relation to any levels of Hishtalshalos, to any levels of the physical or spiritual world, but rather the Adayad, the very essence of Hashem. And how does that come? That bitachon through min hametzar karasa yudke, when a person is in the depths of constraint, from the depths of their soul, they call out to Hashem, they feel the essence of Hashem, and that also causes the bitachon, the trust, and the realization of the very essence of Hashem that is unconditional, and that Hashem will for sure help and save me. And that's the difference of Mimana Afar Yaakov, Umispar Esroi Vayisrael. That when it's Yisrael, which is Li Roish, it's a very high level, but nevertheless it's levels, it's a level of a head, and in a head, even though there's the skull, which is above the brain, but yet the skull is also something which is above, which surrounds and protects the brain, and therefore, even though it's a very high level, it doesn't reach the very essence of the Merchav, the very essence of Hashem. And that's why over there it says mispar. There's a number. It's a number which we can't count, but there's still a number there. Whereas in Yaakov, through the neshama coming down to the lowest level of Ekev in the heel, in the constraints of the physical world, then comes mi mana. Mana is the word mana, which means matana, a gift from above, and it's not even able to be counted. It's beyond any level of being able to be counted because it's something that comes from a gift from above. And that is why there it says afar, not roiva, which is for the four worlds, or 1/4, one level of the four worlds, but rather afar, which although there's a lot of different grains of sand, but it all becomes together, it becomes one single piece, which that's the idea of afar. And that's through Yaakov, through Kabbalah Soil, so a person accepting the yoke of Hashem, doing the things that have to be done because they have to be done above understanding, not even in relation to understanding, just by bringing out the essence of a Jew that's connected to the essence of Hashem, which that's, as we mentioned, the idea of Mina Meitzar, that through this Meitzar, through the constraints that a person feels, this is it, and there's no reason, this is the way it is, my connection to Hashem. Through that we reach the essence of Hashem being revealed in the world, which that essence will be revealed in the Gula Asidah. In the future, redemption in time of Mashiach, the essence of Hashem will be revealed, and that comes through the suffering and the Meitzar and the constraints specifically that the Nesi'ei Yisrael, that the leaders, that Abbeim took upon themselves, that through that we get to a Gula that has no Gullus afterwards, a final and complete Gula that's beyond any type of Gullus.